Supper with Stub, mixing up drinks and making grub. Pairing beer and wine with the dishes we love. Come on in and see the spell of Supper with Stub. Hello friends, welcome to Supper with Stub. You know what we do here? We drink and we cook things. Today we're making a childhood favorite, but we're making them both homemade, corn dogs and tater tots. But as always, we start Supper with Stub with a cocktail, and today is no different. Today we are making a lemonade cooler. All right, so to make a lemonade cooler, we start off with our shaker full of ice. We're gonna add 1.5 ounces of vodka, and as you can see, I have just enough left of this large bottle of one of my favorite vodkas, Belvedere, to make this. To that, we're gonna add our 3 ounces of lemonade, and then you know what happens? We're gonna shake, shake, shake it. All right, now to a rocks glass, we're gonna add, now I've made pre-made lemonade ice cubes. So this is basically lemonade. You can see on this one, there are a few leaves. I made some with and some without mint, so we got a grab bag. So we have ice cube, lemonade, little mint, freeze for about 3 hours. There you go. Pour over a large ice cube, garnish with a lemon, and voila. Oh, that is delicious. Now, you want to beat the heat a little in the summer and add a little fizz to it. Just pour over a little bit of soda water straight from your soda stream. Give it a little stir. In this case, I'm just going to add my lemon and stir with that. Bubbly and refreshing. All right, I'm gonna get all this out of the way, and then we're gonna start making our homemade tater tots. All right, friends, you can see I've assembled the ingredients here for our homemade tater tots. In front of me, I have my trusty food processor and 2 pounds of potatoes. You see I've cut these into about 1.5 to 2 inch chunks. We're gonna add, I don't know, this is 2 pounds. We're gonna add about half of those to our food processor. Now, the key to processing potatoes at all, whether they're cooked or otherwise, is not over processing them, because they will get a little chewy and mushy, and even though we're just doing tater tots, we certainly don't want that. So we're just gonna pulse this a few times. I'm gonna put these into the bowl that we're ultimately gonna process these in. And then have a little look. What we have here that we don't want is excess moisture. So in order to get rid of that, we're gonna take, and I'm taking cheesecloth because I have it, and we're gonna go ahead and cover a colander here. And then I'm just gonna put about half or so of this mixture over this cheesecloth, over a bowl, and watch what happens when we squeeze. See that? We get quite a bit of moisture out of these potatoes, and we're going to do this with both batches before we put it back into a dry mixing bowl. All right, friends, we've got our potatoes as dry as we're going to get them for this process personally, so we're going to go ahead and add a couple of simple ingredients: our salt, our pepper, and we're going to go ahead and mix that up just a little bit with our hands, because that's the funnest way to work. You make this recipe with your kids, they're gonna be amazed that you can make tater tots at home. So to this, we're gonna go ahead and sprinkle in our flour. And what this should do with a little bit of moisture that's in there is start making this a little bit of a sticky mixture here. Now, if you find you're not getting quite sticky enough, you can always add a little more flour, or you can also add cornstarch to this as well. All right, friends, you see from this overhead shot, we have a nice little sticky mess here. This should work well once we start forming these. So, to form your tater tots, you're gonna do exactly that. You're going to use an amount and just make little small tubes of tater tots. And the easiest way I found to do it is use some kind of scooper. You can use even maybe like a tablespoon, so you have evenly sized tots. So we're gonna basically just form these things up, and they don't have to be perfect, but you just wanna get a nice little tube around there for frying. These are actually pretty fat right here, so I may switch to a different scoop, although who doesn't want a fat tater tot? All right, friends, you see we're done here. I have, well, not quite 20 tater tots. Those are pretty large tots. We're just gonna fry those off a little bit longer once we get going. Give me 1 second, I'll be back and show you how to make the batter for our corn dogs before we actually start cooking. All right, friends, we're back. We're ready to make the batter for our corn dogs. And we're basically just going to add all of the dry ingredients into a mixing bowl. We've got our flour, we've got our corn meal, salt, pepper, baking soda, baking powder, not pepper. I always say pepper right after salt. You're used to saying that, right? So with that, we're just gonna take our spatula and mix those dry ingredients together nice and well. Now you may remember this recipe as my basic cornbread from an episode I did in season 1 where I made some pot roast and homemade cornbread. Yeah, full disclosure, it's pretty much the same recipe. All right, you see we have all our dry ingredients incorporated here. Now we're gonna start adding our wet ingredients. First, we're gonna add our honey. Be careful when you're scooping this honey because if you're not, it'll get on your fingers and it'll definitely be stuck on you. All right, after honey, we're gonna add our melted butter here right in the middle. And then we're gonna add our 2 slightly beaten eggs. And we're gonna mix this just a little bit here. Start getting a little bit of a crumbly mix, as you can see. And then we're gonna add the key ingredient, our 1 cup of buttermilk. Now, the only difference between making the cornbread that I showed you how to make before is once we get this done, if you want it a little runnier because you're using it as a batter later, we're just gonna add a touch more buttermilk as we go, but we're gonna check that once we get this mixed up and let it sit for a little bit before we actually dip and make our corn dogs. And of course, our final step before we dip and make these corn dogs here in a minute is going to be skewering our hot dogs. So just take a standard size hot dog. If you want to do foot-long hot dogs, great. I'm using the standard like 12-inch skewers that you would use for cooking something on the grill into the standard 6 or so inch hot dog. Once again, Rib says that's 10, I don't know. But once again, if you've got children eating, you may want to use the thin popsicle sticks or something like that. I like the longer handle on these, makes it a little easier to handle. All right, we're gonna head down to the garage to the deep fryer and start cooking here very shortly. All right, friends, we moved operations to the garage, and why did we do this? Well, because our home is horribly well vented, and anytime I use the deep fryer, I like to either use it outside or in the garage because I can air that out fairly easily. Okay, you see we have our tater tots here. If you look at the paper here, you can see there's a little bit of moisture in there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pull this basket up and drop a few of these on the basket. Nicely separated, and we're doing this so hopefully they don't fall apart. Now if they've misshapen a little bit, you can shape them up a hair before you put them in, but this way we ensure that they don't just go in there and make a more of a free-form fritter than anything else. So we'll start with those 9. We're gonna lower those easily into the fryer, and you see they immediately start frying. We're gonna let these get set, and then we're gonna take a set of tongs and gently make sure that they're not sticking to the bottom of the basket. All right, we're gonna let these cook for 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how large you made them. You see I made these fairly large, which I think is really cool. So these will probably need closer to 5 minutes to fry. All right, friends, our second batch of tater tots are going. You can see our batter here for our corn dogs. A little bit thick, as I said it would be after it sat for a bit. I have up to about an extra ½ a cup of buttermilk to add here. So we're just gonna stir in about a half of that at a time, see if we get it to a nice consistency. There we go, that's a good quarter cup. I'm gonna add just a touch more. All right. So I've added about a quarter cup more of buttermilk here after having this batter set for a bit. Once again, you want it more batter consistency, a little less cakey. So we're gonna take that, we're gonna pour this into a tall glass or mug or the like for dipping. And as soon as these tater tots are done, we're gonna go ahead and dip our corn dogs. All right, friends, you see our tater tots, nice golden brown, maybe a little darker than some would prefer, but they are nice and crispy. All right, friends, so here we are. We have our batter. We need to fill this all the way. What we wanna do when we're dipping our corn dogs is make sure we dip the entire hot dog in the batter, and then we want to get just a little bit on the stick as well, and that'll help the batter adhere. And when we pull that out, we are going to drop it gently directly into the fryer. And repeat. All right, friends, you see there's a little bit of a Danger of splintering some of these. Now, these aren't gonna look perfect apps every time, but they sure are going to be tasty. So let's go ahead and cover up our fryer and make us up a plate. So corn dog, a couple of tater tots. Let's give this corn dog a go. It's sweet, it's crunchy, and delicious. Let's give a go to one of these tater tots here and see how things are going. Wow. All right, friends, you might be asking yourself, what wine do we pair with corn dogs? That's a great question, and I thought a lot about that. So today we're going with Albarino. Albarino is basically wine from the sea. What you end up getting is a lot of tart fruit. You get a little bit of that salinity in almost every bottle. And the same is true with this one here. Now, what I'm hoping is the tart fruit and the acid on there is really gonna pair well with the sweetness of the corn dogs. Let's give this a go, and I'm even gonna add a little bit of mustard this time. I don't know that I've ever done a more perfect pairing. This is effing delicious. Okay, not all of you out there are wine people, so I better have something here in the beer fridge to help you out. So we need a simple beer to go with corn dogs, right? An all-American food. We're thinking fair food. We did the lemonade-based drink at the top of the show. Today we're going with the Downright Pilsner from my good friends right up the street, Port City Brewing. This is just a crisp, easygoing Pilsner. It pours a nice golden color, as you can see there. It's got a few malty notes on it, just a hint of bitterness on the back end, but keep in mind this is a Pilsner, so this is not bitter like an IPA. Let's test that out with both the corn dog and the tater tot. Oh, I feel like it's fallen. I'm already at the state fair. Delicious combination here. That hint of malt goes perfectly with the sweetness on the breading of the corn dogs. Amazing combination. Well, there you go, friends. We got our homemade corn dogs. We got our homemade tater tots. We have our lemonade cooler that we made at the top of the show, and we paired this meal with an easy peasy Albarino, most of which you can find in your grocery store for well under $20. A great summertime sipper. And of course, the Downright Pilsner from my friends at Port City Brewing. Thanks for joining me, friends. Until next time, stop coveting, start drinking, and remember, there's always a seat at the table for you for supper with Stub. Cheers.